Hey guys, what is up and welcome to a new Tesla update video. So today, as per usual, let's go over Tesla stock, let's go over the market, let's talk about what is happening, what we can expect moving forward, and all that good stuff. If you enjoyed, don't forget to hit that like button. This is not financial advice and I am not a financial advisor. And of course, if you enjoy my technical analysis, thoughts on the charts, etc. Well, again, I do have a YouTube membership. That link is of course down below in the description of every single video where I share all my thoughts, post updates with every single day with obviously all the members. So definitely check that out if you're interested. The first tier, again, just $3 a month. That's all it is. All my Tesla updates and sometimes, of course, SPY, QQQ, things like that when there's something worth sharing. $5 a month includes all of that plus NVDA, all my NVIDIA updates, options flow, etc. $7 a month USD includes everything that I just mentioned, plus non-Tesla, non-NVIDIA stocks that have been going actually quite well. A lot of people have been very happy lately. So yeah, so definitely check that out. Where again, I share charts that are not Tesla or NVIDIA, just, opportunities, charts are setting up nicely, things like that. And on the weekend, I do chart requests with members on Discord as well, where members can request specific charts for me to review. So all in all, jumping into it, Tesla closing the day down 1%, closing at, we'll just say just shy of $346 per share, which compared to the market is going to be, a little bit of an underperformance. Tesla sort of almost feels like sometimes a bit of, an inverse the market type stock. So, what does this mean moving forward, right? What's happening with Tesla stock? Is it going to go down even further? Has it base? Did it bounce off the 90 pretty much to perfection today, off of that Fibonacci level at pretty much 340, arguably to perfection? Can it drip a bit lower? What's the plan here, right? So let's talk about that. So first and foremost, I mentioned how Tesla, yesterday we printed a bit of a bearish looking candle. Today we did close red, which does give this candle a bit more validity, right? So, we're not out of the woods just yet from a bullish perspective. And this kind of, shorter term situation, if you will, right? So that's going to be something to watch for, right? We have this kind of, problem, if you will, right? I mentioned also the 4-hour SMI, was getting pretty overheated and the 1 hour was printing bearish divergences. So those are thankfully played out. This could be a bit of a small little bear flag, and I'm still very open to having another move lower. I actually think that a move lower from here, one more move lower, probably next week, honestly, is not impossible. It's still not completely impossible. So let me go over what that means, right? So obviously, we had this nice move to the upside, right? We broke this high, we made a fresh high. All good news. Kind of like what we did here. Nice move to the upside, broke this high, retraced into the fibs, and then we went higher. Same kind of idea, really, right? We're doing pretty much the same thing, ultimately, right? Where we had that fresh higher high, and now we're essentially retracing to the fibs. Now, today we reached the first target, the first main target, which is, of course, like I've mentioned many times, is that 9 exponential moving average. You guys should know about that pretty well by now. And that also lined up pretty perfectly with the 382 Fibonacci at pretty much $340 per share. So far, we bounced off of that. So far, so good. Obviously, is this all she wrote? Was this the drop, right? Congratulations, you got a generational dip opportunity, or can we go lower, right? Well, as long as we essentially remain below this range right around here, again, the low to mid 350s, right? About 355 and lower, really, ultimately. As long as we pretty much remain about below that rough range, yeah, I actually don't think we're fully out of the woodworks just yet on the more shorter term picture. And a drip lower, maybe sometime next week, even maybe tomorrow, but probably next week, it's still not impossible, right? You absolutely should not disregard that potential, right? Where we get one more dip lower to, let's say, either the 0.5 Fibonacci, which is around 335, which is also roughly where that 21 exponential moving average will be sitting, especially if it happens sometime next week, like maybe, I don't know, Tuesday, Wednesday, whatever, right? Or, and this is where it'll be a bit more of a nail biter, and this is where, things will get close and kind of, more do or die, at least feeling, is the 618 Fibonacci, which is around 330. So again, all I'm trying to say is, overall, the picture is bullish. We'll go over the other time frames very soon. But as long as we do not break this high, and as long as we essentially really ultimately don't turn this sort of low to mid 350s into support, because right now we're obviously treating it as a resistance, I want to treat it as support. Kind of like, I don't know, when we go up to a range that was a resistance and then, we treat it as a support. Obviously, we broke down there below, which, made things a little more questionable, but you get the idea, right? You want to take essentially what is currently a support and you want to turn it into currently a resistance and turn it into a support, plain and simple. So until that visibly starts happening with candles, don't fully disregard one more low, right? We can get a bit more sideways action. We can go maybe a small little bounce back up to maybe 350, 351, maybe even tomorrow. Tesla seems to like Fridays lately, but then we can still get that one more drip lower to, again, the 0.5 fibs, or maybe even all the way down to the 618 fibs. So ultimately, that's kind of that shorter term picture, maybe into next week, maybe even to slightly the week after. That's kind of how I look at it, right? until we break above and start turning that again mid to low 350s into support, which if that happens sooner than later, then well, we have our answer, right? Unfortunately, we don't really have our answer until that starts happening. So just it's important to keep this option very much open still, right? So it doesn't, shock you if it were to happen. But that's that picture there, right? And again, especially with the 4-hour SMI, which has been a very, very powerful indicator on Tesla stock specifically, especially Tesla stock. It's pretty good on other stocks too, to be completely honest, but especially Tesla stock. This could use more of a reset, right? So if we get a nice little bounce up and then maybe make a small divergence, and then, we get a harder reset closer to the zero, if you will, which is somewhere in the middle point right around here. That would be that one more lower low on Tesla stock to about the 0.5 Fibonacci, or the 618 Fibonacci's, which again, 335 to as low as potentially even 330 itself. So again, just, it's important to not fully disregard that, because that's, well, still very much a real possibility. Taking a very quick look at the 1-hour chart, right? This does look a little bit of a more, bear flaggy, if you will. This has to have a little bit of bear flaggy elements on the short term. So we could get a small little bounce like this. And then we could, again, also line up for something that could be a bit of a drop, right? Whether you want to take the Fibonacci's from up here to down here, which we're already starting to find some resistance at the 382 here, or you can go from here to here, which so far shows us resisting at the 0.5 Fibonacci. We could go a little bit higher to the 618 or the green fibs, of course, and really fill this fair value gap on the 1 hour. Again, like I said, closer to 350 itself as early as tomorrow, and make this bear flag last a little bit longer. But this does have bear flaggy elements, and we could see that one more low on Tesla stock, which then ultimately creates a large bull flag, and then from there we head higher. Now, again, like I said, short term, it's looking a little bit less bearish, not naturally, because, we did end up getting that retracement to that 9 exponential moving average, which is a good start. There is a possibility that's all she wrote and we don't get that lower. Like I said, harder confirmation is a break and hold above the mid to low 350s. But the overall picture, like I said many times, on the weekly, on the monthly, right? It's looking pretty good, right? It's looking still pretty bullish, guys. I mean, take a look at it, right? So for instance, we have the weekly MACD. Not only is it flipped to green after very long sideways consolidation, but it's now making it looking, higher low or higher highs, which is a good sign to see. So that's a good sign. Obviously, we are looking at this area, like I said, the 350s, low to mid 350s as a resistance, which it was in the past, and currently clearly acting as such right here. So it's not a shocker that we're getting a bit of a rejection here, but I do expect it to break, right? I do expect this to break, and I do expect this to ultimately make our way higher, at least to 365 around here. But my main target, at least my slightly more conservative target, I'd be pretty surprised if we don't see 380. Honestly, sometime in September, like that really would surprise me, to be completely honest with you. So let's see. We'll take it one step at a time. Things can change on the fly, especially with like Tesla stock, right? You never know with the stock. All it takes is one good or bad tweet from, I don't know, Elon or something like that, and suddenly the picture feels different, doesn't it? But overall, again, just based on the setup, right, based on the fact that we were in this massive weekly pennant that we very obviously have broken out of, turned it into a bit of a support down here, there's a lot of good signs pointing to further upside in the weeks, keyword weeks, to come, right? And again, I'm using the keyword weeks, right? Sometimes people think, you say, it'll go to 385, and if it's not there tomorrow, they're like, oh my God, what's going on? They start freaking out. People don't have patience, right? So just FYI, just worth mentioning, just keep that in mind. It's kind of how it could potentially go. So one step at a time, considering we're also a little bit extended from that 9 weekly EMA. So maybe we can get a bit, another week or two of consolidation. Maybe we do get that one final drip back down to like 335, like I said, which then if it happens to say next week or the week after, and we get, overall some relative consolidation around here for a little bit, that also lets it catch up to us, and a nice kind of confluence, if you will, starts to occur, and things start to make even more sense on the weekly. But the overall picture, especially with this weekly pennant breakout, I find it hard pressed to look at this in a bearish perspective. It definitely screams much more bullish than bearish, right? So let's continue monitoring that. But don't forget, this line in the sand to me, about 330, give or take a few dollars, below 330, give or take a few dollars, is that red flag, at least to me specifically. And the final thing I want to really quickly go over is going to be the monthly, right? What is the monthly looking like? Right now, the monthly candle is, of course, closing tomorrow. Tomorrow is the final trading day of August. Of course, come Monday, I think actually Monday the market is closed, if I'm not mistaken. I think Tuesday, right? But nonetheless, next week, right? Yeah, it's a fresh start to the month, right? We start September. So September is historically a bit, bit of a bearish month. So let's see how that plays out. You never know. Maybe everyone and their mother is looking at that in such a fashion that it won't be. Hey, you never really know. But the monthly candle, the fact that it's closing tomorrow, and we will revisit it tomorrow, as long as it closes above about 338 roughly, that'll be really, in my opinion, that should be bullish. Why is that bullish? Because, well, we had, like I said, 2 inside monthly candles in a row, right? We had May's price range, and then June was contained within May, and July was contained within June's price range. Right? That's 2 in a row of inside monthly candles. pretty decent compression, especially for Tesla. And then if we break above to the upside, which we currently are, and especially if we start closing a monthly candle above July's highest point, which in this case is about that 338 or so, or 337, whatever it is, 337, 338, whatever. That's good, right? That's good. That's a bullish sign that arguably should be a bullish breakout out of this consolidation inside, double inside monthly candles. And that's another bullish factor. So the point I'm trying to make is the larger picture. There's a lot of bullish confluence happening, right? On the weekly, the monthly, even the daily, technically speaking, ultimately, right? We're still making higher highs, and now we're trying to make essentially another higher low, right? Despite there, we could be a bit more weakness. We could see one more drop to the, to the bottom end of here, over here around the 0.5 or the 618 fibs, right? That's, again, still a very real possibility. You shouldn't fully discount that until we break above mid to low 350s and turn it into supports. But even with that, even if we get the short-term pain, I mean, would you rather buy Tesla, if somehow you knew Tesla was going to 380s, would you rather buy it up here or would you rather buy it down here? I mean, I'd rather buy it down here personally. And then you also have a pretty good stop loss, right? I mean, hey, if it does break down below key levels, okay, at least you get stopped out. It is what it is. But, your risk reward becomes, pretty damn good, right? Pretty respectable. So again, just overall, that's kind of that perspective that I see right now moving forward on Tesla stock. But with the EMAs bullish on the daily, the MACD bullish on the daily, the weekly MACD is bullish, the weekly MACD EMAs are bullish, even the monthly MACD is bullish, the monthly EMA, like everything is screaming higher. Not necessarily tomorrow right away, obviously, but overall, the trend seems to be favored in that bullish perspective. Now, if things change, I will let you know. But as of right now, that is my honest opinion. So let's see how it goes. Let's see what this ends up coming into and developing into in the days, weeks to come. A lot of people are saying that the catalyst that will send Tesla higher to at least 380s, maybe into the 400s, is going to be a positive update on Elon's compensation plan, which people are expecting in the first half of September, I think. So that could be the catalyst as well. You never really know. But all in all, thanks for watching. Options flow, actually very quickly on options flow. Let's take a look at Tesla stock, see if anything new came up. Yeah, kind of mixed. One thing that does kind of make me, raise my eyebrows a bit is someone did buy 2.3 million puts, 375 for pretty much, pretty in the money. Puts for tomorrow, actually, when Tesla was at 344.62, so it's it's a tad higher than that. It's about $1 higher than that, but nonetheless, that's a bit of it's okay. It's unusual. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little unusual, right? Wahoo, 2.3 million for puts expiring tomorrow. I mean, they are in the money, but that's still pretty unusual. But other than that, bullish flow is slightly overwhelming the bearish flow, but it's been pretty mixed throughout the day, to be completely honest. Slightly bullish leaning, but not heavily. Anyways, thanks for watching. See you tomorrow. Peace.